Mark Cox Show.
I want to compliment your show on how fair and level-headed everything you guys talk about.
Who is this guy? He's saying what we've been saying forever.
Maybe what we need from a conservative standpoint is
The Mark Cox Show.
I respect that. We don't agree.
Listen to both sides.
Let's get it on. Is the Mark Cox Show.
And this is Chris Arp substituting for Mark Cox. Jason, I got a question for everybody here in the studio, and I want to say that Ferguson Mayor James Knowles III is going to being with. Yeah, let's give him a hand. It's going to be in this for the entire hour. But here's what I don't understand with the cattle situation.
Yeah.
Why is it because through just plain dumb luck the cattle escape that all of a sudden they get a reprieve and they get to live and we can't eat them as a steak?
You know, I equated that to Laura. We were talking about it, and I said, I think it's kind of like the equivalent of an older senior citizen that dies in a car wreck. It's like you made it that far and then, gone. So I think, it's one of those things where, like, they got out, they got their freedom and stuff, and you know what? For being that smart, let's go ahead and spare these guys.
I guess so, because I just didn't get it. I was like, capture them and put them back in the pen and then do what you got to do.
It's a sign that it's not their time.
Okay.
Chris, have you ever been to a bullfight?
I have not.
So years ago, I went to a bullfight. If the bull wins, he gets to live. And by winning, it's really a judgment of the people.
So he doesn't kill the matador.
Well, I guess if you kill the matador, you win too. But yeah, if it's a good fight, they'll actually wave little white towels in the air, and if the crowd wants him to live, and then he gets to spend his life making other bulls.
So this is kind of like Spartacus, right? Like when you go into the old Greek arenas and stuff like that. Okay,
but you know what? But
so these guys win; they get to live. I guess
they do. Well, it's the same kind of concept. But you know what? I'm not a PETA animal lover and all that stuff. But I've seen bull fights, and it is kind of sad because they'll have like 9 spears in them, and they're still fighting.
Yeah. They wear them down considerably first. They don't put that on the highlight reel.
Right.
But yeah, after they get lanced about the 10th time, then the matador decides he wants to take him down.
Right.
well, it can't be too quick, so they got to kind of give the audience, what
Those
they want.
Those tickets aren't cheap. You got to get your money's worth.
Let me get the phone numbers out before I forget. Our numbers are 314-969-9797 or 866-455-9797. Our socials are at MarkCox971, Facebook.com/The Mark Cox Show, and 971talk.com/Cox. And that voice that you heard again is newly re-elected Mayor James Knowles III. I got to make sure I get all those in. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good. Hey, our next guest is Austin Stukins. Austin is the brand new executive director for the Missouri Republican Party, and have been anxiously looking forward to talking to him. We've kind of been playing phone tag with him trying to get him on the show, but we've got him on this Good Friday. And Austin, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Oh, no problem.
I'm glad to be on.
Good.
Mr. Mayor, congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
Austin, before we get started, you are not a Missourian, a native Missourian. You're from Louisiana. Tell us a little bit about your background in politics and how you have gotten to this point.
Well, that's an interesting question. So,
James gave it to me.
Marine Corps. I joined the Marine Corps right after 9/11, and I served in Hawaii, of all places.
Tough duty.
Tough, really tough. And then I had the opportunity to serve our country overseas in a combat role in Iraq. And then I decided to finish my degree, and so I got out of the Marines in 2009 and went to LSU. Go Tigers! Those ladies are hopefully taking home a national championship today out of St. Louis, or this weekend rather.
All right, go LSU!
In LSU gymnastics. But anyway, so my whole time in college, I spent time working on campaigns and working for the Republican Party of Louisiana, and became their political director and helped to establish the ground game against Mary Landrieu in 2014. And then I worked for the RNC in the state of Georgia to help out President Trump and win down there. And so the opportunity presented itself to serve our party further in Missouri, and I jumped at the opportunity. I thought it was a great place to make some good progress to help our party, and And I couldn't be happier to be in Missouri. It's a wonderful state. It's clean. It's gorgeous. And the people are absolutely wonderful.
Well, I'm good.
Well, with the exception of Claire McCaskill.
Exactly. I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Chairman Graves when we had him on a few weeks back. We have a supermajority in the Senate. We have a supermajority in the House. We have most of the statewide offices. It's going to be just easy money for you guys, isn't it? You're going to be just kicking back and enjoying the fruits of victory, right?
Oh no, you can't rest back on your laurels for sure. There's a lot of hard work that went into Missouri becoming a red state, and we had to expand on those gains, and we can't take anything for granted. Look, make no doubt about it. Trump won by 16, 18 points in Missouri. But Claire McCaskill is going to be an uphill battle, and we know that for sure. She's an entrenched, out-of-touch D.C. establishment Republican, and we have to continue to build on the gains that we've made so that we can continue to fight that fight and keep Missouri a red state.
Okay. Mayor James Knowles has a question for you.
Sure.
So Austin, one of the things that I think is really a game changer, and I think is important for the party this year, is the new constitutional amendment that we had in this past fall, in which we changed up how we do fundraising in the state of Missouri and how we do candidate fundraising and campaign finance. I think now more than ever, because of the limits on campaign finance, the party's going to have to play a bigger role than they've played in recent years on fundraising. Do you guys have a plan for helping that effort?
Well, I absolutely agree, and that's a great question, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate the insight into that. And look, it has changed the game. There's no doubt about it. But the voice of the people spoke. Now, granted, there's some nuances to that law that I'm sure will that still need to be kind of panned out by the ethics board and whatnot. But regardless, at the end of the day, the party should be, and we want to be, an avid player in helping all of our Republican candidates. And so we have some great things coming down the pipe that will kind of be unveiled over the next few months that we've been working on since Chairman Graves and I got together to work on the future of the party. And I think you're going to see a more active party than we've seen in the past, a more engaged party all the way down to the local level. So absolutely, we've got a lot of plans for that, and I don't want to disclose too much, but there's some great things that are about to come out within the next probably I'd say 30 days. You'll probably see some great stuff coming out of the party that'll be exciting. That'll lend to a clearer picture about the question that you've asked, for sure.
James took a little of the thunder out of my question. I was going to ask that. Traditionally, the executive director in the Missouri Republican Party is kind of a behind-the-scenes role. Most people in the party, if you ask them who the executive director of the Missouri Republican Party is, they couldn't tell you. I'm encouraged because I've seen that, you were in St. Louis this week. You went to you're meeting with central committee members. Is that something you plan on doing more? And what are some other kind of different things that we haven't seen that you've got planned that you can, kind of tell us at this stage?
Sure. Well, I guess it lends to my leadership style. And a lot of that just happens to be that I believe that we as a party should reflect the vision and the ideals of the people that we represent. And look, Missouri voters, especially Republicans in Missouri, are not the kind of folks that idealize or rather identify themselves with someone who sits there in Jefferson City and says this is the way it needs to be done down in Springfield or Rolla, or this is the way it should be done in KC. Well, that's not necessarily the most effective way to get out there and get people to work with you as a party. And I think that means that we have to be invested in actually getting out into the community. We've got to be assisting in the activist space. And we got to take a big part in that. And that means we've got to roll up our sleeves, and we've got a lot of work that we've got to do. So absolutely, I plan on being a far more visible figure. That was one of the things that Chairman Graves and I discussed when I came on board, was that I absolutely will be a more visible executive director than some of the directors in the past. And look, I'm not saying anything in deference to my predecessors or anything of the like. I just have a different approach to it. And so I plan on getting out across the state, not only just meeting with our state committee members and our elected officials, but also meeting with the activists, because they're the strength and the muscle behind the party. Working with our Republican women's organizations, college Republicans, young Republicans, you name it. This should be an entity where we're all engaged and we're all working towards the common goal, and that is to expand the growth of our party and, make sure that we do everything we can from the party's extent to support our Republican candidates by providing a firm opposition to those that don't stand up for the values and ideals of Missouri voters. And that would be, in this case, in the next 2 years or year and a half or what have you, the case against Claire McCaskill in the Senate for sure.
I hope we had a listener call in the first hour, Henry Davis, and he is a African American, lives in the hood, as he said. I'm not saying that. He said he lives in the hood, and he put out a funny video after the election, laughing, saying that he's a Trump supporter and he doesn't care what people think. And the big elephant question in the room, I don't know if Liz or Jason or Mayor Knowles, I'm black. Yeah, shocker.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm black. Are there any plans in the future for minority outreach, not just African Americans, but Hispanics? We're starting to get a pretty sizable Hispanic population in Missouri. I'm sure that will be part of your plans to reach out there as well.
Absolutely. I'm glad you touched on that, Chris, because this is something very near and dear to my heart. So I grew up a poor kid. In fact, there was a time in my childhood when I can remember that we were homeless for a little while.
Okay.
And we moved to Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana, where my mother's family is all from, and we lived on the north side of Lafayette, which is a black neighborhood.
That's the hood
I lived in, and absolutely.
Okay.
Look, they call it Fightonville and Truman for a reason. But look, in that community, that's where I learned more about who I was than I ever learned growing up as a younger kid. And I learned the ideals and the values of the community that I lived in. And when I assessed my party affiliation, the values that I grew up around knowing in the black community were those that, we believe in the sanctity of life and that every life begins at the moment of conception. On Sunday mornings, your butt was in church, and if you weren't, your grandmother was going to give you a hard time.
Exactly.
And supporting values such as traditional marriage, things of that nature. Look, those are ideals that I learned in the black community. Mm-hmm. And although I am not black, I can certainly relate and identify. And I believe that we should be more assertive in how we approach and engage. Because when you ask most friends that I have and that we all have that are of all different walks of life, why are they a Democrat or why are they a Republican? Some of them can't even tell you why. But when you talk to them and you get down to the matters of the heart, most of them understand that the ideals that we represent as the Republican Party are ideals that they grew up knowing and understanding and believing and still to this very day, and that which the Democratic Party has almost all but walked away from. And that's, so absolutely, firmly in guys to do that.
Sorry about that. And that's what I have said many times when it comes to African-American outreach. The Republican brand is severely damaged in our community. It's going to be very difficult to try to sell, quote unquote, the Republican Party in our community. But if you talk about traditional marriage, you talk about entrepreneurship, you talk about our conservative values, that is where you're going to make the inroads. And I say this all the time too. A lot of people in the Republican Party have given up on the African American getting that vote. They don't think they'll ever get it. But it's there if we make a concerted effort. And one thing that I always like to point out is that Strom Thurmond and George Wallace, big segregationists, but at the end of their political careers, they were getting 25-30% of the black vote. Governor Mike Huckabee in his last governor's race got 35% of the black vote. And how did he do it? Just by showing up.
Oh, absolutely. But, I think the biggest thing is that it's a conversation that should be had. Mm-hmm. We're neighbors. We're all in this together. We're family together. We are America together, regardless of our race, our creed, our ethnicity, our religion. We're all Americans, and our values in the Republican Party and our principles our platform is timeless, and we don't run from it, and we're proud of it. I mean, and absolutely, it's a conversation that should be and must be had, and you can't give up on it. You certainly can't take it for granted. Granted, we're talking generational change, Chris, and you know that. But you know what? It's something that we've always got to be willing to take on, because generational change doesn't happen if you give up overnight.
Hey, Austin, this is James. I just want to say you're absolutely right, and I can tell you that, as Chris mentioned about the inroads that have been made with some of these elected officials, it has to be done at the grassroots level. You know, these conversations, you're not changing hearts and minds with what's going on CNN or some of these, these elections that are happening at the national level. I mean, I'm a testament to it. 85% Democrat community, over 67% African-American community. My opponent ran on the fact that I'm a white Republican, and I took 57% of the votes. And that's because I'm in the community. It's because I talk to people, because, as you mentioned, people know we share the same values. There's no party affiliation attached to many of these values per se. I mean, we know there is, but unfortunately we're oftentimes misrepresented as far as what our party values are. But when we sit there and talk about those shared values, absolutely, you make so much headway with people, and that's only going to be done at the grassroots level. So I implore you, as a grassroots person myself, Central Committee member, that's the only way we're going to change the hearts and minds, broaden the base, expand the tent, so to speak. And I think you're on the right track there.
Amen. I appreciate it. I couldn't agree with you more.
Austin, thanks so much for coming on today. I'm glad we finally got this done, and I'm sincerely looking forward to meeting you. You sound like you got some good plans. You got the energy, and I think you're going to make some changes in the part, not changes, but some inroads in the African American community and just in other communities to move this party forward. And I look forward to meeting you, sir.
Amen. Absolutely. Likewise. And y'all have a blessed Easter.
You too.
And my best to your family.
Thank you. Have a great day, sir.
Thank you.
And that's Austin Stukins. He is the new executive director of the Missouri Republican Party. We'll be back with, later in the hour, we'll have our guest with the Reginald Scott, executive director of the Lee May Housing Partnership. And we're also going to continue our discussion on, have Trump supporters left him? I still want to hear you. We got some time left in the show. 314-969-9797 or 866-455-9797. We'll be right back.